What is up, guys? It's your boy the LifeofSol, aka the bodybuilding banker. I've been incredibly busy, so I apologize, guys, if I haven't posted in a couple of weeks. I definitely will be a lot more consistent, but I've got a few exciting updates I want to share with you, so make sure you stay tuned. So in case some of you are new here, my name is Sol and I'm a London-based investment banker. I'm also incredibly passionate about fitness. I post finance and fitness content centered around maintaining a healthy work-life balance. And occasionally I do the vlog of going on holiday, my hair transplant and whatnot. But stay tuned and enjoy this video. In this video, I'll be talking about ways in which you can convert your investment banking internship. A lot of you are going to be interning at some of the biggest investment banks, and it's important that you make the best impression possible. You've worked so hard up until this point to get the actual internship, so I want to make sure you guys secure these offers. I'm going to give you interesting tips to make sure you do extremely well. If you like this sort of content, please give me 200 likes. This not only helps the YouTube algorithm, it also indicates to me that this is the type of content you want to see, and I can base it off my experience and experience of several of my industry professionals who've actually gone on to do private equity and other really interesting stuff. And these are some of the things that we've learned in order to convert our investment banking internship. So stay tuned and enjoy the video. You've probably heard the saying, your network is your net worth, and it's incredibly important you do this during your summer internship. The more quality relationships you build, the more people know you, and so that when they're making a decision of who to make final offers, your name will be remembered in the interviews or in the decision-making rooms. And if you make sure that you build rapport with key decision makers and of course produce quality work, you will increase your chances of getting a full-time offer. So there's usually two ways in which you can network. First is normally through the scheduled networking events you have during your internship. At most investment banks, especially at the bulge brackets, they organize series of speakers from the different divisions to speak to all the interns, and this is a fantastic way for you to network. The second is taking a more proactive approach and then organizing coffees. This can be done with your team, such as your analysts, associates, vice presidents, and if they're not as busy, your managing directors. One thing that I should caveat is that you should prioritize quality over quantity. So not so much focusing on getting as many meetups as possible, but ensuring the relationships you make are strong and memorable so that your name can be raised when making an offer decision. So with networking events, they can take place in a number of ways. They could be in a large auditorium with a number of interns where you have a senior speaker or an analyst, for example, speaking about their experience at the investment bank. Or they could be smaller focus groups, say maybe the whole M&A team, the leverage finance team, the sales team, whatever the division you are in. But it's important that you approach these with a purpose. And what I mean is try to anticipate what the speaker's experiences are and try to ask certain questions so that you can stand out. Listen, I know, guys, especially if you're in a massive auditorium, you don't know anyone with thousands of people, asking questions can be quite daunting, but this will definitely help you stand out and make sure your name is remembered. So say if I was meeting, say, the head of M&A in the consumer group, maybe I'll do some research on the consumer market, look at some of the trends, then ask him for his opinion on the sector and the way it's going to go. This not only helps you in terms of getting your name out there, but it shows that you're very keen. And if someone like that is able to vouch for you, this will definitely help you going forward. So another way to network is take a more proactive approach. And this is where you're introducing yourself to other people and trying to go either for a coffee or lunch. So the first thing you should try to do is maybe have a look at the organization chart and see who's who, and then use that as an opportunity to maybe send a short email to see if they have a spare 15 minutes where you can meet them up to ask a few questions or to understand more about their role in the division. I would say it's really important to treat these opportunities as an interview because you never know who's vouching for you. Say if you were going to meet an analyst, you can talk about some of the experiences they faced when they first joined investment banking, because ideally after your summer internship's done and you go back to uni, you get, fingers crossed, you get the full-time offer, you'll be in their positions. So maybe talk about some of the things that help them perform really well, talk about their summer internship experience or their route into investment banking. If you do have the added benefit of having some sort of leverage, so maybe you went to the same university, to the same school, played the same sport, for example, try to find common grounds of interest and use that as a start of conversation. Just makes it a lot more easier, and they might actually give you more intel and maybe look out for you more in the internship to make sure that you convert. So one good way to make sure that you continue meeting people is once you've met someone, ask them to introduce you to someone in their network, maybe in your division or someone in another division that's relevant to you. The reason why this is incredibly good because it allows you to hit the ground running and also gives you an air of credibility because someone from the actual investment bank introduced you to them. Maybe you can ask that person who's making the introduction, what's this person like? What are things that I can discuss? And this would allow you to be in a strong position because you're likely to be a lot more memorable. And again, it's going to help you getting that full-time offer. And one question I particularly like is asking the person, maybe this is more relevant to an analyst, what can I do to make your job easier? Everyone in investment banking is extremely busy. They're often working on a lot of deals and under a lot of time pressure. So if you can make their life easier, that's definitely going to help you go a long way. If you show those improvement points during the course of your internship, it's definitely going to put you a strong chance to try and get a full-time offer. The final thing I'll say about networking is trying to get your name out there. Investment bankings are highly competitive and sometimes there is no headcount. But if you do a really good job and you're more known, it's likely that people can recommend you to different teams. I know of an experience of one of my friends who actually didn't get a full-time offer in his team because they just didn't have the headcount. But because he had made such a good impression and produced high quality work, he was actually recommended to another team and received a full-time offer from them. Even if the whole investment bank doesn't have a team, investment banking, although it's quite big, is a really small world. And if you do good work, you might have the added benefit of people within the investment bank recommending you to their peers within other investment banks. And this could help you perhaps getting an interview, fast tracking you, and helping you get a full-time offer elsewhere. I think the second point ties on very nicely with the first thing, and it's making sure that you produce high quality work. You can make as many networks as possible, but if your work is not good, it's very unlikely that you're going to convert. Investment banking, like I said, is extremely busy and people are juggling multiple projects at a time. And so if you can come in and be very sound, learn very quick and produce high quality work, it's going to help you go a long way. One of the ways you can do this is by asking different interns and analysts how you can help them, because analysts are extremely busy and are normally staffed with multiple projects. If you can take the pressure off them and essentially make their life a lot more easier, this is likely to be a lot more memorable. Taking a step back, one of the ways to make sure that your work is very good is whenever you're being handed a project, make sure you write everything down. The reason why this is important because if you're working late nights and extremely busy, it's often the case that you may forget what is done. But if you have it down written clearly, it's going to help you jog your memory and make sure that you do everything to good detail. Another reason why it's important to write things down is so you can vocalize your approach. So say if I was talking to an intern, for example, and I explained a project, maybe I told them to go and build some strip profiles. Now, if he wasn't sure, but he had written everything down, he could come back to me, have a discussion, talk about his approach. And if I agree as an analyst about his approach, then it's my responsibility to make sure that the intern's work is good because he's vocalized his approach to me, there's been communication, and I understand what they're doing. So by writing down, it goes a long way to help you produce good work. The second thing I would make sure you do is check. You know, there's many times, even I've done it, where sometimes I've submitted a piece of work and there's a mistake, and trust me, your bankers will notice it. Investment banking is rigorous for having high attention to detail, so you have to make sure that your work is normally checked and to the highest quality. You know, mistakes happen, but they're normally quite off-putting, so you have to make sure you can eliminate the mistakes. Even if you're making mistakes early on in the internship, if you can reduce them, this would be really good because it's going to allow the analysts, the associates, maybe even the VPs to build some trust in you so that they can give you more complex work, and this could help you during the growth of your internship. So another tip to make sure that your work is high quality is always to ask questions. The reason why questions are good because it shows the person, whoever's giving you work, that you're showing initiative and understanding. And secondly, you can always use that as an opportunity to vocalize your approach. Going back to my strip profile example, say if I was an analyst and I gave you a task to go and build maybe a strip profile of 5 companies, you may think that you're going to go onto the internet, use Capital IQ, which is an information center, and manually get the companies and put the information together. But by you vocalizing your approach, I may be able to tell you that, hey, I did a project Blue, for example, where 3 of the 5 names are already there. So that means that you can literally just copy 3 of the 5 names, and that means you're only going to be researching 2 as opposed to 5 companies. It's going to make you a lot more efficient, return the work to me in a lot faster time, and I'm going to build more trust with you and a rapport, and this is going to allow me to invest more time as you as an analyst and make sure, you know, your name is brought up to the associate or the staffer, for example, when decisions are being made. So my third point is identifying the key decision makers. Now, this is a tricky one, guys. I get it. It's daunting. You're on your first internship or maybe second, and you have no clue who the key decision makers are. But honestly, the best thing goes back to communicating. If you can talk to, say, your analyst, they may be able to give you some inside information, which may help you identify the key people. But usually during investment banking, one of the most important people is the staffer. Now, what is the staffer? The staffer is normally someone who is allocated to staff projects, i.e. they manage all the projects in your team, and they provide different projects to the analysts and associates, and sometimes even the more senior people above. Now, the staffer generally has an overview of how everyone is doing, so it's really, really important the staffer knows you. Take time out to have a coffee, to make sure you get to know them. And if you can work directly with them, this is a fantastic opportunity for you to prove yourself. If you can produce high quality work, they're more likely to remember you and vouch for you. Now, of course, if you can get the opportunity to speak to senior people, managing directors, or vice presidents, that's fantastic, because these guys have most of the say, because they're some of the most experienced in the investment bank. But I can imagine it can be very, very difficult. So sometimes focus on finding the most prominent people. You often work a lot with analysts, but I would probably say associates is probably the best sweet spot to try and meet. Associates are people that normally been in the investment bank for at least 2, maybe 3 years. And so they have more of a say. Now, try to find the associate who's quite proactive, someone who's talking a lot in the group. Because like I said, in that big boardroom, when they're making a decision and they've got the faces and names of people who've done a summer internship, if that associate really liked you and worked on a project, he's gonna vocalize and put your name forward to get a full-time role, versus someone who's a lot more quiet and doesn't speak out. You may have done brilliant and fantastic work with them, but if they don't know you or if they don't speak out for you, this is not really going to be helpful when coming to the final decision. So another useful tip for you guys is to try and be proactive and not be reactive. Now, what does this mean? If you have a call, for example, scheduled in, try to do some research. Try to understand what the context of the call is. Usually there's a call note and there's an agenda. It'd be really helpful if you make the call invite. Take some of the mundane work away from an analyst. Make sure you organize the call. If you have the opportunity to set up the meeting rooms, find the meeting rooms, get there maybe 15 minutes earlier, make sure all the tech equipment is working. You essentially want to make everyone's job easier. If they see you managing that small process, it's going to give them a lot more confidence to give you more complex tasks. Another thing when you're on a call is try to take as much notes as possible. Listen, I understand if this is your first internship, it's maybe highly unlikely that you may understand everything. However, if you take really, really good notes and succinct bullet points, you can go away and have a think of maybe questions you can ask that maybe the analyst didn't get to think of, and the analyst can focus on maybe on the client while you're able to provide very good notes. This shows that you've been proactive. Finally, always try to ask questions beyond what is handed to you. So say if I've given you a task and I told you to build a company profile, be proactive and ask the question, why are we doing this? Why are we looking at this company? By being proactive, it now shows to me that you care more about the work, and then I'm likely to invest more in you. So the person might say, the reason why we're doing this is we're looking for some acquisition targets in Europe, and this is a particular company that fits the strategic profile. Now, by doing that, that shows that not only are you invested in the project, that you understand better what you're asked to do, and maybe you can present different companies that might be useful, and it will lead to overall a more effective and quality project. Finally, last thing I would say is seek feedback and treat it as a marathon, not a sprint. Investment banking internships are long, usually 9 to 10 weeks, and they're hard. And often it's the case, if they give you a realistic experience, you could be working very, very late on projects. One of the best things you can do is make sure that although you're showing up, try not to do late nights. if it's not necessary. And the reason why is because naturally, as we get less sleep and we're more stressed, we're likely to make more mistakes. And this is not going to be helpful when producing work. And especially during the course of the internship, the different decision makers are looking for an improvement. At day one, this person was this. What are the changes they've made in 10 weeks? Because they're thinking to themselves, okay, if we were going to invest in them and they were going to join their team, what is the trajectory of their growth? If we provide them with this amount of training and invest time, are they going to be receptive? Have they got the good soft and technical skills to make sure that they convert the role? And one of the ways you can do this also is by asking feedback. Normally during the course of an investment banking internship, you have something called a review. You might have a midterm review and then a review where you find out and offer the decision. Usually during a midterm review, they tell you some of your good points, the development points, and it's really important to make sure that you work on that. But going back to my previous point, try to be proactive. Maybe after every project, organize a coffee, organize a meetup, or even a phone call, or even a 5 minutes walk for some lunch to find out how you've done in projects, and most importantly, ways you can do better. If you're doing something good, continue to do that, but find weakness points. If they say you made some mistakes, obviously look to cut out some mistakes. If they say that your formatting wasn't as good, ask other ways, ask for examples of presentations that looked really, really good. All of these questions will show that you're really proactive. And the key thing is that you're constantly developing, you're constantly learning. And this is one of the key things, ability to learn, that they look for in investment banking. Now, thank you guys for listening. I hope you found this helpful. Be sure to give me 200 likes, and this will indicate to me that you're really interested in this sort of content. And listen, especially if you're on those internships, I'll be dropping some of the gems, the tips to make sure that you perform. So stay tuned, enjoy. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. It's your boy, the LifeofSol, aka the bodybuilding banker, and I'll catch you in another video.